In this video, I'm going to share with you why comparing yourself to others is possibly one of the most disastrous habits that you could ever have. Why you need to cut it out. Because it's going to lead you to a life of complete misery and possibly an early death. To really highlight this idea, I'm going to share with you a story about a German billionaire. In 2007, the German billionaire named Adolf Merkel was worth roughly $12.8 billion. In 2009, his net worth plummeted down all the way to about $9.2 billion. So he lost a couple $billion over the course of 2 years because he did a series of bad bets in the stock market. Now, Adolf couldn't handle this. In 2007, he was the 5th richest man in the world. In 2009, he no longer was, so he decided to jump in front of a train and kill himself. Now, a lot of people are shocked by this story. They wonder how a billionaire who's way wealthier than 99% of the people on Earth, actually 99.9% of the people on Earth, would kill themselves. Even if Adolf had lost 99.9% of his net worth, he would still have something like $100 million in the bank. Why would he do this? It's because people don't see how insidious this comparing yourself to others game really is. When people get wealthy, they stop caring about money. They've done studies that show that people really value money up to about $70,000 or $80,000 when all your creature comforts can be met, when you can afford your Netflix, when you can have a roof over your head, when you can go out to restaurants and travel and all that type of stuff. But after that, the value of money starts going down. There's not much difference between $100 million and $1 billion in terms of what you can do, unless you want to buy a jet, blast off into space like Jeff Bezos or something. Then maybe you need a couple billion. So your relative happiness goes down and people start to play something called status games. Naval Ravikant talks a lot about status games. It's when you start caring about where you are in the social hierarchy of things. So for Adolf, losing that money meant a diminishing of status, which led to possibly depression and ultimately him killing himself. And everybody plays this game to a certain degree. We all play status games. A part of it is evolutionary. Cavemen or prehistoric man really needed the help of the group to survive. So they were constantly trying to see where they fit in the status hierarchy of things. Even if you look at, Animal Planet and you watch some chimpanzees, there's always some kind of dominance hierarchy and chimps are trying to figure out where they fit. You don't want to mess with the alpha male because you might get exiled or killed. So it's important to constantly compare yourself with other people to see where you fit. This was beneficial back then. It's no longer beneficial now. We live in an age filled with ridiculous opportunities, an age filled with where you don't have to compare yourself to the next person. And unfortunately, we are groomed since birth to compare ourselves to the next person. Just remember when you were a kid, possibly your parents would say stuff like, why don't you be a good boy or a good girl like Jimmy or Jenny, right? Always compare yourself to other kids. When you're at school, your teachers would rate you A, B, or C, or a D, or even an F on your report card, and you have a score, your score 20 out of 35, showing you where you were relative to other kids. At work, if you have a job, you're in fierce competition with your colleagues, possibly other divisions. In business, you're competing with other businesses for market share. There's always this battle of comparison, and it's ever present in our society. If you look at even things as trivial as Samsung versus Apple, Spotify versus Apple Music, there's constantly battles over dumb stuff to keep us in this mindset of comparing ourselves to other people. Now, the problem is when you compare yourself to other people, you tend to focus on the upside. You focus on their positive traits. You focus on the surface level things. You compare yourself to a billionaire. You're like, wow, this guy's got $1 billion. I don't have much money in my pocket. And you feel down as a consequence. But you don't really know what's happening in that person's life. You're not seeing that person's depressions. You're not seeing their family struggles. You're not seeing maybe their problems in the bedroom. You're not seeing a whole bunch of stuff that would make you question just how amazing that person's life is. We see celebrities all the time. We see maybe someone like Kanye West who's in the news right now and he's got millions of dollars, but he's really struggling right now in terms of his family and media and that type of stuff. Would you really want to trade places with him? Everybody goes through their struggles, and we all were put on this earth with our unique gifts. There is no such thing as a life that's better than yours. Everything is based off perspective. If you're looking at it from the perspective of comparing, you're always going to find something that's not positive in your life. But when you're looking at it as we're all spiritual beings coming on this planet to have an individual, unique experience, and each life has meaning, each life has something important to give. Every single person has a unique gift, and the goal of your life is to find your unique gift that really makes you happy to be alive, that gets you excited, and not focus on other people's gifts, not focus on other people's successes and put yourself down, because that's the programming you have had since birth that's really limiting. And unfortunately, a lot of times when we see the world through this lens, this competitive lens, we don't really get to shine because we're too busy trying to copy other people. We're too busy comparing with other people, trying to play in their game instead of kind of forcing our lane. The most successful people in the world stay in their lane. They create their own blue ocean. They create their own path instead of following other people's paths. When you think of someone like Joe Rogan, he's Spotify podcasters with like 200 million, most streamed podcasts in the world. He's not competing with anyone else. He's not competing with other podcasters. He's staying in his lane, find his zone of genius and just double down on that. So that's what you really have to do. Take audit on what is unique about you, what makes you special, and then double down on that. Another thing that people often fall victim to is comparing themselves with a previous version of themselves. Let's say 10 years ago, you used to hit the gym, you're really big and buff and you're getting back into it now, but you're not as strong, maybe you're a bit older, the hypertrophy is not responding the same way, the muscles aren't building. Don't fall into the trap of comparing yourself to your younger version. Just focus on where you are now and move forward. Move forward, aim for progression, and don't be hard on yourself. So this is the key to living a good life in terms of comparing yourself. And I've fallen victim to this myself, especially with YouTube and business. Sometimes, you see someone else and you're like, damn, this person is crushing it. Why can't I crush like that? And you just feel bad. But you really need to see it from the perspective of quid pro quo, something for something. If I was to have their life, I would need to take everything they have. I can't just take one aspect of their life. I need to have everything. And when you see it from that perspective, it's not always a good deal. It's better to just focus in your lane. Anyway, guys, that's the message for today. Do this, and I promise you'll be one step closer to living and dying well.